Morning guys, so welcome back to NZ Micro Outlaw Kustoms again. So, we got the tank back last night. Obviously the hands aren't on it, because I've got to put them on. But we're basically ready to go. I'm going to do a couple of small things. I'm going to put the fuel pickup piece in and just make sure that all fits in there, because there is an extra bit of little metal in there that I could whip out with the die grinder. There's not a lot, but just in that opening I could clean the little extra steel in there out. The tank sits about that angle, I think it is. Put that drain right at the bottom, yeah, it does. So in there you can see there's a little bit extra. It's not bad, but there's just the odd little bit of steel that I could just knock out if I have to. So yeah, the tank sits like that, pretty much. So yeah, we'll just have to, I've got to put the ends on, and I just want to make sure that that fits in and doesn't have any fouling issues, which I'll do now. That tank piece is back over here. What did I do with that? After I was mucking around with all those bits and pieces. What did I do with that? What did I do with that? I was mucking around with all that gauge stuff. Because I shifted a lot of that crap. Well, not really. God. That's the biggest problem. You start so many little jobs, and because you got to wait on this and wait on that, yeah, it takes a wee while to frickin' remember which you moved it here. So it is. I knew I moved it somewhere. So it's here. I think we'll be fine. I just want to make sure that there's no funny issues getting that in and out. No, that's fine. Yeah, I'm not sure whether it sits, I'm assuming it sits probably that way, with a little tail up for the breather, but there's no reason why to say it won't fit that way either, if you know what I mean. So, but that's cool. You can't really see in there now anyway. That's good. That doesn't foul anything, so I won't panic about it. I just thought if that was a little tight getting it in, but there's no problems getting that in, so that's cool. I just wasn't 100% sure. It's funny, I've never tested it, but it was never going to be a drama, so. But, yeah, we're just going to put them on. So that'll be fun. I'll sit that back over here in the meantime. We'll get you set up on the tripod, because we want to, basically this afternoon we're going to go to the Vintage Car Club, which I hope to film a little bit of if I'm allowed to. I won't film if I'm not allowed to, but they've got quite an extensive part shed there, like in the local area. So we'll have a look, and I'm going to check for distributor stuff, and we'll also look for clutch bearing, because there may be something there. In old new, there are a lot of second-hand stuff, but they've also got a lot of new old stock stuff that's been collected from workshops and garages and stuff all over the years. So, like I know when Dad sold his business in '99, I think it was, he had an auto dismantling yard, wrecking yard, whatever you want to call it, for, I don't know, almost 20 years, not quite, type thing. There was a lot of old stuff there, you know, pre-70s and 80s and all that sort of stuff, that, you know, it was 20, 30 years old. There was a lot of that sort of stuff there, bits and pieces. So a lot of that, before he sold it, he collected it all up and donated it to the Vintage Car Club, you know, just because it didn't really matter, and he said he'd rather see it go there than the new one. It'd come in and go, oh, this is a freaking lot of old crap, and throw it away. So yeah, get it done. If I get a chance, if I get that finished shortly, you know, if it only takes me an hour or so to hammer those bits over, then I might get this painted and get that painted. And, you know, we've still got a little bit of finishing work to do on that, bits and pieces, so, but yeah, but because I've got the paint for this now, I wouldn't mind trying to get that done. So I might actually crank the heater up and close the door, because it's not terribly cold, but it's not that hot. And so we get some warmth into this, and maybe we might be able to get the paint on there so we can get the frickin' masking tape off this thing and check out that colour too. So, you know, we'll carry on. Righty guys, so I've shifted to so the light's a little bit better. It's a bit dark over in that corner. It's not quite so dark here. So anyway, got to put these on here and hammer this tiny little lip over. Hopefully it doesn't become too much of a pain in the arse. So my weapons of choice is this door skin tool or door skin hammer that I made when I did the front door on this. I made that, and this to help me start. I'm hoping I'll try and use this dolly on this side of it, just so I've got something to hammer against. Take it, no. And I'm hoping, I'm not sure whether that's going to work, but just to get me started, I'm hoping I might be able to go like this in a couple of spots. I'll grab the other one of these and just see if I can do a gentle cranking, just so it doesn't run away on me and fall off. So yeah, and I've got the other two on here just to stop the tank from rolling around me. I'll just go grab the other clamp and see if we can get going on this. I'll bring you over here in a minute and show you what I'm doing and kind of how I'm going to start it. Yeah. I may just got these in here just so it doesn't, when I first get the first few bits jammed over, hopefully, this will just help me from not falling off, if you know what I mean. It's not really holding in deep tight exactly where I want it, but it's going to just gives me an extra frickin' set of hands basically. So let's bring you over here for a second. Show you kind of what we're going on from this side. Yeah, so I'll just have to hold this in and then just gently just tap that over. And I'll have to probably just walk it around a reasonable distance and turn it over a bit and then walk it about. I won't be able to hammer it all over in one hit. I'll have to gently walk the whole thing around until it sort of starts holding, and then I'll better really flatten it over. So we'll start doing it. Oh, hopefully you've seen that okay. I wasn't sure. It was a little bit low. You might have seen what I was doing, but kind of only just the top of the freaking picture. Try to get it framed and better for next time. So yeah, we basically, as you've seen, we sort of hammered that edge down a little bit, and then I come round to this edge because it was easier to try and get that next little bit of roll over. Once I sort of started bending it over and it sort of held, then I come around to this edge and it was easier to sort of bang it down here and sort of use the open side, if you guess, you know what I mean, to try and get it to roll over a bit more. And then at the last we come in and we hammered like that with a dolly direct in behind to flatten it off. The only bit that's a bit awkward is with this being in the road, and it's going to be even worse on that side because we've got the filler neck. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do right there. I might have to get a little bit of heat. Oh yeah, probably not. I might just have to manipulate it with a pair of pliers or something. We'll see how we get on just right at that piece here, because that is going to be an absolute bitch. I'm going to have to try and really screw around with that. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. I may try just a little bit of heat and just see if I can get just a touch of heat on that edge so I can manipulate it down. But I've got to be careful I don't frickin' desolder this shit, because otherwise, you know, we're back to square one, kinda, you know what I mean? But, yeah, it's one hand on, we'll get the other one on. Actually, just had a thought, what I might do is fold that edge down a bit, just maybe an inch or two, so I can get that to fold fairly well round, but not fully closed off, and try and see if I can slip that edge over. That might be the easiest way to do that, just because it's so tight. We'll do that. That might be the better way to do it. Yeah, I think if we just fold that little bit of that edge over if we can, and get this to hook in over here, at least it's started, and then I can come back and manipulate it a little bit later on somehow, even if I, you know, got to get in there with a punch or something and drive it in at the end of it or something. We'll work it out. You know, once we sort of get the rest of it tucked fairly hard over, it's going to be awkward, but I might better just manipulate it with a few tools and maybe a pair of pliers and whatever else, so I don't have to use any heat. Right, we'll get to it. Right, nice. So, finished the tank, got that sorted. I've just had a bit of a sort out here, get rid of some crap out of the road. I'm actually just going to, because it's a little cool, I'm actually going to plug the heat gun in, and I'm just going to take a little bit of that coldness off that block. Yeah, it's not too bad, but it's actually been mild this morning, so it's not. It would be different if it had been down to, and I've had the heater on, but I've just switched it off and opened the doors up because the sun's out. But if it had been like minus, a couple of 3 degrees like it has been up until the last couple of days, that might have been really cold. But I don't think it'll take much to warm it up, the surface of the block with the heat gun, just to take the last of the chill off it, I guess. And we'll get some paint on this thing. I'll get a bit more of a shake up and stuff. Actually, I might go sit that in the sun. At least that might warm it up a little bit with can being black. Try. So yeah, I'll give the block a wee warm up, and yeah, then we'll spray this thing that colour there. Hopefully it matches reasonably well. No, it won't matter too much. When we lift it up and go to put back in the car on the cherry picker and stuff, we'll give that a bit of a, we'll give the bottom of it a wipe down and clean down and a quick scuff, and we'll mist a bit over it, just to colour it up. Because you don't really see that unless you're under the car anyway, because the sort of the trays that are in the against the edge of the chassis come up here pretty close, so there's not much of a gap down in there, so you don't really see that. And as long as we give it a nice scuff up and a quick colour up, you're not going to really be looking at it. And a lot of this is half covered up too, but it's fairly exposed and it's not like a modern one. So we want a reasonable job on this thing. So we'll give this a bit of a warm up. Right, so I'm not entirely happy with the colour. It's not as, to be honest, I don't really know what the original colour was, but from all the photos I've seen, they were either greeny colour or they were this slightly more, I think it was slightly more camely, sort of bit more of a greeny tinge in this beige, but I don't know what colour you want to call it, beige yellowy colour. I think it was a little bit more greeny on the paint beforehand, but you can see you're still on the sump. And as I said, when we lift it up and we go to wheel it back round and whatever, we'll give the sump a quick clean up, because I've left enough in the can to give the sump a quick spray and just touch up the motor if we happen to decide that we can see something that we're not 100%, might be a little bit thin or something like that. So it's got one light coat and then another medium coat and then a slightly heavier coat over top. And it looks fine. But yeah, I've left enough in there to basically give the pan a quick scuff and clean up and spray that so that's the same colour, and we'll just give the motor a bit more another wee dust up basically. But yeah, it looks fine. I just think that the original colour was a little greener, I guess, than what this is. Just with what was on the motor before, whether that was right or not, I don't know either. But you know what I mean. Just for some reason they've mixed it a bit yellow. They've obviously gone, oh yeah, that'll do. And put it in the can, where they maybe could have just flicked a touch of green in there. But it'll be fine by the time it's got everything on it and all the black pieces on it and everything else around it. Nobody will know. It's like, you park 3 different cars together and guarantee the motors, restorations, the motors would be all different colour. They'll be all similar but different. It's like, a good prime example was Dad's Triumph, the 50 Thunderbird that I rode in the world's fastest engine. There's about 3 or 4 guys down here that have got similar bikes, and they were all chasing that same colour, and they were all completely different shades of blue, all similar, I guess, but some are lighter and some were whatever, and so yeah, like they were all sort of different. I think, well, I don't know. I think Dad's is pretty close for colour from original, from posters and pictures and whatever else, it kind of looks like that colour. And I remember years ago when Dad painted it, there was a few old guys around at the time that said, oh geez, yeah, that looks pretty close to the original sort of colour, from a few guys that sort of had them at the time, whereas they sort of said, oh, the one down the way, but it's a bit light blue, where yours looks like it's more that colour that I remember, those bikes being when they were new, so when they were painted blue, that metallic blue. So, but yeah, it's one of those things. Most people won't care or know, to be honest, once it's in there and it's all together. But yeah, I think by the time it's got all the black parts on it, that'll look the part. I just think personally it should have been a touch greener or something like that. I think it was a little greener, but should be right. I just don't think they tried too hard to get a slightly better match. Anyway, we will carry on. I might give the manifold a clean up and a paint. Spray that with some heat paint and black. Well, that's one way to heat up the exhaust manifold. I might do the same with the intake side of it. Just poke her in there, let her breathe, let her warm up, get some temp in it. I might do another hit with some brake clean, just to because it's being machined, so it's probably half covered in fucking like coolant and shit, so we'll give it another. No, it's probably not ideal doing it when there's heat in there, but it's poking in the hole, so should be alright. It's a bit dodgy, but oh well, gotta live on the edge occasionally. It's warming up, so that's the main thing. We blow off. It should frickin' get all the crap out of it anyway. That's quite warm. It's pretty hot there. It's not too bad. Like I can hold my hand on it, but for not very long. So hopefully, like you can feel the hot air coming out of there. So it should warm it up to a fairly good degree, and then we can. We'll do the same on the intake, and we'll just let the manifold cool down a little bit and make it more like this side of it. It is actually warming it up because it's going through the little heat exchanger thing. I can't fucking let it sit there like that one. I like the intake as well. Right, so just quickly unmask the worst of the stuff off the block, off the motor. I'll do the spark plugs and stuff later on. I may just give this another wee light rub and just give it another wee coat of black later on, just to tart the edges up and stuff like that. It's no biggie. Just give it a wee light wee rub with a bit of 400 and just give that another wee spray. But everything else looks pretty good. Did miss one little spot, and he got a little bit of yellow in there, but might better just touch that with the brush. So that's cool. Looks good. So I better get all the other stuff back on it now, which would be absolutely freaking awesome. Yeah, so that's that. Exhaust manifold and intake manifold has had a couple of coats of paint on it. So yeah, basically I warmed it all up. And then I'll just let it cool for a bit, and then we'll just paint it. So it dries pretty quick, and I might even be able to heat it back up with the heat gun on from the inside just to help bake it on a little bit. But yeah, I'm going to go have some lunch, and then we'll go have a look and see if we can find any parts. It'll be absolutely friggin' awesome. So we'll catch you later on. Oh well, we got a windscreen back with glass in it. The state New Zealand safety standard in the frickin' corner. Apparently it's got to have that now. So when they put new glass in any of these things, even because it's laminated there, when they cut the glass, they put a special sticker in between for the safety standard or whatever it is. I assume it's in between. You can't feel it, so got to be there apparently. Crazy anyway. So anyway, we didn't have much luck, well, kinda today. We dropped the fuel tank off and we picked this up, and then we went to the parts shed to try and find distributor parts at the local vintage car club in there. Big huge parts shed they got. And the guy was meant to be there from 1:30 on to about 3:30. We got there just before 2 because we went and picked up this and dropped off the fuel tank, and yeah, he had buggered off because the weather was so shit and nobody had turned up. So yeah, if we actually went there first instead of picking this up, and if we got the fuel tank, we might have been able to have a look through, but we've left the distributor out there because they're having a meeting tonight, so the guy that normally runs the part shed's going to be there because we rang him to find out where he was, and he's going to have a look through. He's going to have a look. So hopefully the fucking distributor doesn't get lost, because we've got the bits one, but it's got all the good bits in it that we've got. So yeah, we're trying to find a rotor and maybe another set of points and a better cap, or better set of points and a better cap and a rotor, if there's one there. We were going to have a look for the clutch release bearing too, and we thought maybe they might have had a housing and whatever else there. You know, might have found a better bearing or a new old stock one or something like that, because they do have a wee bit of new old stock stuff. But yeah, we didn't want to leave that there, because yeah, we haven't got another fucking housing. I've got another distributor housing if I have to build another one, I will, but worst comes to worst. But I haven't got a good cap. That's the only good cap I've got. This one's broken and, you know, would never hold on because that tit's broken off it. Because the other one will work with a little bit of work. I could make it work, you know, if we can get a rotor. So, but yeah, so I'm back here before I thought it was going to be. But it's still sticky, unreal. It's cold. Anyway, I actually thought they would have dried before now. But anyway, I might put the, trying to think, should I put the windscreen in there or now, or, oh, and I really need the rubbers to go around it. There's no point putting it in there yet. We've got to get rubber for that. So, but yeah, might do a couple of little jobs, then bugger off home, I think, because I wasn't really prepared to do any more. And I got my power steering pump that turned up. So yeah, I might go do that. And Dad's shed, because I want to get that to fucking work. So I can get some new tyres in the car, because I don't want to drive too far. So yeah, pain in the butt. Wasn't planning on being here this afternoon. We were planning on looking through parts to try and find stuff. But anyway, pain in the ass. Alright, I'll catch you later on. I might do a couple more jobs here, but yeah. Oh, it's good to have that done, but I suppose I might better I'll hang that part up and get that etched. Oh, no, there's a couple of alterations I want to do to it. Won't do that yet. Anyway, catch you later on. Morning, guys. So welcome back to NZ Moper Outlaw Kustoms. There's a new Instagram because somebody hacked it yesterday, and I can't get back into it. I sort of tried for a wee bit, but I didn't really have a massive amount of followers on there because I restarted the account quite a while ago, probably 6-8 months ago, prototype thing. I was back up to about 400 followers, I guess. I don't know, somewhere in about there. Yeah. But what had actually happened was, I'm not sure if it was Rat Rod Jeff's new account or old account, because he got hacked there quite a while ago too. It's basically sent me a message, something about verifying his account, his new account, and I was like, oh, well, yeah, no. I know Jeff, I'd talked to him a few times, through different messages and bits and pieces, so I thought it was a little weird, but I just didn't really think about it, and yeah, so possibly his account's been hacked too, or it might have been his last one before he renewed it there a while ago, because I know that his account got hacked and he was trying to start, you know, he was doing YouTube stuff, and I gave him a few big shout outs on YouTube, and we were talking back and forwards there for a bit, you know, for a couple of weeks anyway, reasonably, I wouldn't say regularly, but you know, like we had a bit of a conversation there for a while. So I didn't really think about it too much, if you know what I mean. So you're freaking easy to get caught out when sometimes you just don't think about things. Alrighty, so I'm trying to get now. I need to adjust these out a little bit. They're in a wee bit far, because I need to put this bracket on here. It goes over top of this, if you know what I mean, or whichever way that goes, one way or the other. So that's going to go back on there, along with that, for the throttle linkages that go from one side of the motor to the other, or engine. There's a rod goes around the back, bracket goes on the back of the goes on the back of the bell housing piece, and there's a rod comes down here, around here, and then back around to the carburetor. That wouldn't be like that if it was if the steering wheel's on the other side, but anyway, but that's how they worked around it. This here, so I've obviously got to make a space in for here, but I just think that might be just a little bit too much play in there. So we better get that sorted. So I will, again, take it to the engineers and give them another little project. I'm just not 100% sure, because there's actually there's like a little collar sort of type thing in the centre, which I'm guessing is to help spread the grease around the shaft. I'm not quite sure how we're going to do this, because they're either going to have to try and sleeve and bore this out and put a bush in it, or make a new shaft. And I'm going to have to also jump upstairs and have a look at that other one, just to see if, what sort of space is in here. I'm guessing there's meant to be a space, otherwise we can do this. I'm not 100% sure on that, or whether it just sits there in the tension of the belt, just holds it there, if you know what I mean, and the fan spinning just pulls it forward. So I need to check that. I would imagine there's meant to be a space in there, but like most things, I'm not 100% sure, because again, this was a million pieces when I come to rebuild it, so I need to suss that out. I need to wind those little pieces out so I can get that bracket back on there. Yeah, so I might go for a quick walk upstairs and have a look at that and suss that out. We'll have to get a belt made, and I'll just go to the same guy that used to make all the belts for Dad when he was at the museum, and we went to the same guy and we got one made for those tractors I was working on there back in 2020, giving Dad a hand there for a while. When I first come back, I just wasn't quite sure what we were doing at that point. So yeah, so we'll do that, but yeah, we need to get this fixed first, because that can't be wobbling around like that. It's the first time I really had it together too, and had a decent look at it. You're doing a million other things, and just some things evade you. So yeah, we better get that sorted. I'm just not sure whether to make a slightly oversized shaft and then just clean this up and tyke it out slightly and make a slightly oversized shaft with the right threads on the end to accept these pieces, or whether they put a bush in each end. But you haven't got much meat to work with, if you know what I mean. So it's just a matter of trying to work out what works easiest. But there's also that little piece in the centre, so yeah. Anyway, I'm going to go upstairs, have a quick look, and yeah, we'll carry on putting stuff together. Well, I didn't have to go far to find out what I wanted to know. So yeah, there's no space in there, but that almost looks like that shaft is too long, too. I'm not 100% sure on that. There's nothing in between that. And this has also been taken off the motor. And it looks like that nut piece goes to the front, which I thought it might have been another way around. So you could easily get a spanner in there, so you weren't fighting with your hand in the road. So yeah, I need to turn it round, that brass piece. That's right. You don't know unless you look. So yeah, it's got the original funny grease nipple zert thingy. So yeah, and there's no bush in there. It just moves backwards and forwards. But that's only got a little bit of play in it. It hasn't got that freaking, like, it's got half an inch or more. So that makes me wonder where that shaft's just way too bloody long. So I might take this down there and just have a wee look. I might better use, just compare notes, just see whether this one might be less worn, maybe. I might just swap the shaft and the frickin' and the brass piece, maybe. We'll see. That might be better. Try the combination of the two, so we can come up with a better solution. I might have to get it rebuilt. Right, so also while I was upstairs, I hadn't had a decent look. I kept forgetting to take tools up there to frickin' get a couple bits and pieces that I want. But I found the mount for the coil that goes on here. So we've got the plate, but we don't have the actual bracket that the coil sits in. So we've got that bottom plate, but the little bracket that the coil sits in, I don't know why this is on here, but I'm going to pinch that and clean it up and paint it and put it on. So at least when we get a coil, we can slip it in there, because I guarantee this bastard's no good. But it'd be interesting just to test it. But yeah, so I'll take this little bracket off. At least I can bolt that and screw that on there. So when we get a coil, we can just slip it in and ready to go. Not pricking around with a bracket. This has obviously been pinched off something else at some point, and they haven't bothered taking the bracket off. But this is obviously the original bracket for this thing. So this is another speed generator, and there's actually another one on that car still. So yeah, like if we do happen to have problems with this one, at some point, we can probably strip this one down and get it rebuilt if needed. So yeah, and I assume it's the same thing. It's just the same Wagner branding on it. So obviously, a lot of the ones that come to New Zealand possibly had the Wagner electrical systems. They probably were all the Wagner electrical systems. So yeah, and I'm going to pull this apart, strip all this down, and just see whether this piece it actually feels like it might be slightly better in that shaft. So I might just swap the brass piece in the shaft, and we'll see how we get on with that. It might be just slightly better. If it's a little bit better and it's hardly got any movement in it, like a little bit of movement wouldn't be too bad, but this has actually got quite a bit, and for some funny reason, it just seems to be have a lot of length in here, and that's a lot of movement. Like if it just had just a touch, you wouldn't worry about it. But yeah, so we might pull that brass piece out, the adjuster, and it needs to be turned round. So it needs to be around the other way, according to that car up there. I had a look at that too. It's around the other way. So this piece is on the front side, which I thought would be a bit weird. Like I thought it would be easier in here because you could get in here and adjust it, but I don't fucking know. Like, I suppose it's 1,500 now they're in it. But yeah, so we'll spin that round and we'll just see whether that one is better, and we'll try the combination of the two and just see if we can get one that's nice and tight. So yeah, but I think that shaft is slightly shorter for some reason, so we might use that one if we can get this all apart and clean it all up. Yeah, because there's no point repainting another fan and repainting another pulley. We'll just put them on air if we have to. So we'll try and get them apart. Right, so it's funny the fucking things you learn when you find something that hasn't been pulled apart. and mucked around with before, you know, you got with it. Obviously, you know, when they stripped this thing down years ago, like they had all the fan apart and all that sort of stuff and whatever, and so to stop that shaft from fucking moving around, there's a split pin in this little piece in the middle, or a cotter pin, or whatever you guys want to call it. So that's basically there. All that there is to stop the shaft from moving backwards and forwards. You know, it's got that little bit of play in it. So, and this has actually got a bit more movement than I would like to. You know, what it would be like driving down the road, you know, at low revs, it probably would be fine. But, you know, if we're going to all this trouble to fix everything, we may as well get at least one of these shafts sorted. This one's obviously quite a bit shorter. I'm going to try and have a measure up. I haven't got this pulley off yet. I managed to get the fan to break loose. But I think this is reverse thread, because I was trying to find a nut to wind onto it, and I'm pretty goddamn sure it's reverse thread, so that doesn't frickin' help me. I think. Just trying to double check that. Just trying to find a nut. Well, it might not be. I just mightn't have quite the right thread. But yeah, I was trying to find something on there that I could wind in there to lock that on to try and help break this free. So I could fucking get it off. And I also haven't got a frickin' pair of pliers or anything that we can get around that in my arsenal itself. So I'm going to shoot around to Dad's. Actually, I might take it with me to Dad's. And he's got several pairs of, you know, with Stulson's pump pliers, whatever we want to call those things. He's got several there hanging on his wall, so I'll use one of them to get this apart. So there's possibly is a set here, but they may be in the owner's ute. I just haven't got around to that. So yeah, I'm going to go do that, and while I'm there, I might have a fucking play with my power steering pump and put that on. I was going to do that last night, but I didn't get around to it. I got home and they end up having to do other silly little things for somebody else to help them out. Yeah, and I'm really running out of power steering quite fast. It's getting quite stiff and crappy when it's slow, so I've got the pump here with me, so I might throw that on and jack it up and see if I can swap that fluid over quick and whatever, and see if I can at least get some fucking power steering back. Pain in the ass. Because then I can drive the bloody thing into town and get some new tyres in the bastard before I read one through the wire and pop it. They're not through the wire yet, but fucking the two front ones aren't far away. Man, they're getting bald. I've been slack, but yeah. Right, we'll see if we can get this off. Yeah, so obviously there's a pin through there, and then yeah, I might clean this up, and because it's a shorter shaft, whether we look a bit more of a look, just see how much difference there is, but I might, just so, now that I know that pin's there, that might be better with the slightly further away, but it's got 1.5 dozen the other. And I also need to see if I can get this one here free, because I don't think I've ever had the fan off here. I've had the pulley off, but I don't think I've ever had the fan off it. So, yeah, we might, depending on what happens, we might either put one shaft or the other, and we'll just get one of them rebuilt and swap it over, sort of type thing. A bit like the distributor. Actually, yeah, I might get them to not play with the distributor just yet, because I think we're going to go with a your 70s or 80s Holden 6-cylinder distributor, which is a GM product over here. We've been talking to somebody, because obviously we were looking for parts yesterday. We didn't get into the Vintage Car Club parts shed, but they had a meeting last night, so we left the distributor there, and the guy reckons maybe a Holden distributor might do the job, because I think from memory they're very similar in the base, so we might be able to do some mild modifications to it, and then we can get actually an electronic distributor in there, and run it in 12 volts and get an electronic. I think their electronic distributors are just about all freaking contained. I think they're contained. I'm trying to remember because I put one on my holding ute because it was points and I put an electronic one in it. I'm pretty sure they're contained. A contained unit. Because they don't have like an external box like some of the Chryslers did back in the 60s and 70s. Because it's in like mid to late 80s. Holdings were using our electronic distributor in the 6 cylinders before they started using other engines. Because they actually used the RB 6 cylinder in the very late 80s, and then they went to the Buick V6 later on. Buick V8 V6 style motor. But yeah, they had an electronic distributor. I'm pretty sure it's all self-contained. Just obviously got to run a decent coil and whatever else to go along with it. But I don't think there's any external box. So yeah, we might run 12 volts and high spark, basically, as long as those plugs will cope. But yeah, that might be at least we get a real good spark in the old girl, and the it should fire up easy. Yeah, so I might get him to hold off on that distributor yet, if he hasn't started it. So, but yeah, we'll get this off, and I'll see if I can get my power steering sorted. Yeah, I haven't quite got to this yet. Right, before I run away and do what I was going to do, I stripped. That's the original one I had with that shaft in the motor before with the fans and stuff on it. Now, I think the shafts are the same length. I think don't know if they were done up, twisted on enough or something. But I stripped this other one down. I've cleaned this housing up. I've still got a bit more cleanup to do on it. Fuck me, they're just packed full of grease and shit and crap in there. But with the original shaft that I had, and in this housing, it seems to be less worn. I think this is less worn. It's still got a little bit of movement in it. So what I might do, I still want to pull this one off just to double check, but I think this shaft here's got a bit of wear in it. You can see it's got a bit of wear. Well, I don't know. I think maybe this may have been remade. I don't know. Doesn't appear to have much wear. Like, it's got a bit of rust and stuff on it because, again, it's that fucking side. Oh no, that was here. I'm not sure, but that looks less worn than this one. You can see where this has been wearing. So that shaft's worn, but this here is worn less than that one, and that shaft's less worn. So this is actually quite a bit tight, and there's still a little bit of movement in it, but it's not bad. So I might reassemble that on there without this in here, like just in the meantime, and just see what it's like when I put it on the motor and see how much movement's on it. Might just run it instead of mucking around, with all that. Like, if it's not that bad, like by the time it's got a bit of grease and stuff been around there, like that's going to take up a little bit of slack as well. Once it's been pumped full of grease and stuff a couple of times, by the time the grease pumps out through the thing and lubricates, and that will take up a little bit of slack as well. But that's quite worn in that housing, but that shaft's not very worn. So that housing must be quite a bit worn, because that was worn, but this isn't as bad. Yeah, between the two, we end up with a half reasonable combo. So yeah, we'll have another look at that later on. Yeah, I don't know if I will bother pulling that off. Just looking at it, because it's quite a ridge in there and quite worn spots. I can kind of catch my nail on it, if you know what I mean. Where on this, doesn't appear to be anything. Doesn't appear to be anything. So, for some reason, this was worn. Hasn't worn on this. This probably been a bit harder than this one. You know, when they were made, you know, this one probably ended up a bit harder, so it worn the housing, or the what do you want to call it? The adjustable cam thing. So yeah, and this one happens to be a bit less worn because that shaft's worn more than what that has. So yeah, we might end up with a half decent combo there. So we'll try that later on. We'll put that bit together. But I'm gonna go have some lunch and I'm gonna go see if I can get my fucking power steering working before I come back. Maybe.
Welcome to Iron Outlaws. Stay tuned. You're not gonna want to miss this.